Hey, what's up guys, it's Ryan, and today I have another highly requested video for you, a new and improved updated load order featuring 150 mods and filling up as much as the 5 GB that the Xbox servers allow us on Skyrim. This load order is going to be themed towards a stealth and assassin character because that's exactly what you guys voted for in the poll that I released about a month ago. This poll featured a choice between a stealthy load order, an archer load order, a brute load order, as well as a visual and graphic mods only load order, and it seems that you guys wanted to see the stealthy load order, which features the sneak, thief, and assassin themed character, which is exactly what I have for you guys today. It's taken a lot of trial and error as well as testing whenever it came to putting this mod list together, so I do hope that you guys enjoy the mods that I've picked out for you. And if you don't want to hear me ramble on about each and every single mod in this list and you want to just jump straight into the load order, you can do that. Just make sure to go to these timestamps in the video first, because there is very important information to know whenever downloading some of these mods. I'd hate for you to download my entire list without watching the video and then jumping in without having seen those parts, and it'll be completely messed up for you. So I would recommend going to these timestamps that I have up on the screen right now. If you don't want to watch this video and you just want to download the list, then you can do that. Just make sure to at least follow these instructions that I include in these timestamps here. Now, if you followed my load order videos in the past, you know that there's something very important to do if you plan on downloading every single mod in my list. If you plan on downloading every single mod that I'm going to feature in this video, it is very important to go into your Skyrim under the Manage Game and Add-on section, and under the Save Data tab, you'll find something called the Reserve Space. If you click on it, you can press Clear, which will clear the entire reserved space, which will make it possible to download all of these mods without running out of space. Now, the reason behind this and the reason that we're clearing the reserve space is because whenever you download mods in Skyrim and then delete them, some of the cache is still stored in there from the mod, so it'll make it so you'll keep downloading mods over and over again, and then eventually you'll download a mod that you seem to have enough space for, but it'll still tell you don't have enough space for it. In order to get around this, you have to clear your reserve space whenever you're starting a new load order, which will delete all of your mods. Just a little disclaimer there. If you do clear your reserve space, it deletes all of your mods. So that's why I'm saying to clear the reserve space for this video, because if you're going to download all 150 mods, you're going to need as much space as humanly possible. And the only way to do that and to ensure that you have the most space possible is to clear this reserve space so you can start fresh on a fresh new list. Now that all that important information is out of the way, let's move on to the list and turn you into a true thief or assassin. So the first mod in this huge list that I have for you guys is the Unofficial Skyrim Edition patch. Now, we all know that Bethesda releases some buggy games, so it's important to download this unofficial patch to fix some of those unwanted bugs, and it also makes several other changes to different quests to make the game all around better. This is also a mod that's been featured at the top of every single one of my other load order videos, so I have a lot of experience with it, and it's definitely a mod that I wouldn't play Skyrim without. And this is also pretty much how I'm going to go through each mod. I'm just going to be giving you a little bit of info about each mod and then moving on to the next one, because if I sat here and tried to talk about each and every single mod in full detail, we would be here for hours, and I know that this video is already going to be long, so I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of a brief description and then we can just move on to the next mod, which in this instance would be the HeliosProtector Project. This mod adds new quests, new looks, new followers, and new marriage options, so you no longer have to wear an amulet of Mar before marriage. It also adds the ability to ask your friend, follower, or spouse to change their outfit, with 38 new outfits total. This makes it so that Vex from the Thieves Guild is also marriageable now. There's also a bunch of other NPCs that have been added to this list, making them marriageable now, making it so you have so many different choices when it comes to choosing your spouse. Moving on to the next mod, we have Radiant Quest Marker SE. This is a very simple mod that just makes it so that all the Radiant quests in the game are labeled as Radiant, so you don't waste your time and you can actually tell which ones are Radiant and not. Moving on, we have the Font Overhaul, Natural Typefaces for Skyrim, which is to my knowledge one of the best font overhauls that's available in the game. It replaces all of the common interface fonts with a more visually pleasing and realistic one while maintaining a lore-friendly feel. And then staying along the same lines as your interface mods, we have the 60 FPS menus mod, which basically just speeds up all the time in between the menus, and you'll definitely realize the change once you install the mod. Believe me, once I installed the 60 FPS menu mod, I never went back, and it's just a mod that stays on my load order no matter what, because going through each menu is very clean and very fast, and you can get to everything a lot easier, and just trust me on this, it's a must-have mod. Next up, we have the Skyrim main menu replacer, which simply just replaces the Skyrim dragon emblem and soundtrack of the main menu with a new background image and soundtrack. It also includes new snowfall animations to bring it all together. Now that our main menu has been selected, now we can choose the load screens to have in our game. Our load screen mod for this load order is going to be the TESG load screen replacer, which replaces all of the loading screens in the game with 205 high-resolution screenshots that's been processed to resemble paintings. All of these paintings are absolutely beautiful, and there's so many of them, so you'll always be seeing a different one on each loading screen. Now that we have our main menu replacer and our load screen replacers installed, now we can work on adding some new music into the game. The music mod that I've chosen for this list is the Skyrim Music 2 mod, which combines 3 different mods together. There's the Melodies of Civilization, there's Skyrim fan-made combat music, as well as inspired Skyrim music, adding hours of new music into the game in each area that you explore. Moving on to the last menu mod that I have in this list, we have the SkyHUD Dissonance preset. This is a replacement for the in-game HUD with improved features and alternate options. These features include an Oblivion-style HUD, left-aligned health, stamina, and magicka, a dot crosshair, a slim compass, alternate ammo types, and you can actually see this HUD as it's on screen right now with the gameplay in the background. This is what your HUD's gonna look like, and it's probably the best and cleanest HUD mod out there. Next up, we have the realistic waterfall sounds, which does exactly what you may think. It just makes the waterfall sounds in the game a lot more realistic and louder as you get closer to them. Moving on to another sound-changing mod, we have the Quieter Dungeons and Caves mod. This mod removes those useless and distracting, unreal noises that you hear inside of dungeons and caves so that you will now hear the natural sounds more clearly. You'll hear water drip, your footsteps, enemies' footsteps, and even dust falling from the ceiling, distant conversations, and enemies breathing. This mod, combined with the ELFX mods later in the list, just make it so that dungeons and caves are a whole lot more realistic and creepy, just like they should be. Moving on, we have the realistic Ragdolls and Force mod, which just makes it so that the Ragdolls and overall force in the game feels a lot more real, as you could probably guess by the title of the mod. But what I mean by that is, like, whenever you kill someone, they won't just go sliding or flying across the map. They'll actually have weight to their body now, and you won't be able to just pick up bodies and fling them all over the place. It just makes it so it's a little bit more realistic whenever you go ahead and kill someone and go to loot their body, so they don't just go sliding all over the place like they sometimes do. And then next up, we have the realistic impacts mod, which makes it so that large beasts will impose a more realistic power attack against their opponent, such as dragons can do ground wing attacks that can send opponents into the air, and mammoths forward and standing power attacks can do the same, making them far more dangerous to attack close up, hand to hand. And then finally, we have our last physics mod, which is the realistic death physics mod. It just makes it so that there's no death animation for animals and NPCs, kind of like whenever you would kill a bandit or something like that, they would do that little spinning animation before dying. This just takes that out so that they no longer do that and is a lot more realistic. Whenever you just drop a body from far away, they actually just fall lifeless instead of doing that weird spinning animation. Now, this is a very important mod on the list as well, because if you do install this mod and you want this mod in your list, it is very important that you do not use the vanilla start with this mod active. If you do, you will get completely stuck on the chopping block and you won't be able to do anything. But if you don't keep this mod installed, like let's say you install it but then you disable it, start your new game and get all the way through the vanilla start, and then enable the mod, you'll be just fine. But since we have the alternate start anyway on this list, it's pretty much preferred that you'd use any other start other than the vanilla start, so that's why I also included in here, because you're just going to be using the alternate start anyway. But if you are going to be using the vanilla start, make sure that realistic death physics is disabled, or else you will get stuck on the chopping block at the beginning of the game. Now that we've got that important information out of the way, it's best to move on to the cheat room, which is the next mod on our list. The cheat room is a basic mod that you can do pretty much anything with. I don't necessarily use it for cheating, although sometimes I do feel like using it, but otherwise I just use it so if I ever get stuck in the game, such as I get stuck in a corner, or I can't move, or I just get to a point in the game where I can't progress any farther and I just need a little pick-me-up, the cheat room is there for you. So I always have the cheat room installed on all of my load orders, just in case I get stuck in a glitch or something happens and I need to give it a quick fix, because this will give you all the tools that you need to fix any glitch that happens in the game. Next up, we can move on to some of our armor mods in the list, such as the Face Masks of Skyrim, which includes 8 new color variants of a face mask. There's black, blue, brown, green, purple, red, white, and yellow. These can all be crafted at a tanning rack under the chitin section, and to craft a face mask you'll need simply just 2 linen wraps. Now that we've covered the face masks of Skyrim, now we can move on to the Cloaks of Skyrim, which adds over 100 new cloaks and cape variants into the world, not only as a craftable option, but also into leveled lists, so you can find them on enemies and around the world as well. There's designs for every major faction, including guards and the Greybeards. There's unique cloaks and capes hidden around the world as well, with their own unique designs and enchantments sometimes. Cloaks can also randomly be found enchanted, just like vanilla armors can be. Overall, if you're going to play a thief or an assassin character, you gotta have a badass cloak to go along with it. it, and the Cloaks of Skyrim just adds so many into the game that the option is completely yours. Moving on, we have a huge armor mod called Variations, Armor and Clothing Recolors. This is more of a texture and mesh replacer of selected armors, clothes, and weapons, and it covers so many in the game, such as blades, dragonbone, dwemer, elven, fur, glass, steel, steel plate, even stuff such as the beggar outfit, the blacksmith outfit, the miner outfit, monk robes, and more. There's so much armor and clothing that have been covered with this mod that any type of armor that you stumble across is going to look brand new and remastered. Moving on, we have the improved Closedfaced helmet, which just makes it so whenever you're in battle or just walking around the city, if you stumble across someone that has a helmet on, such as a steel plate helmet, dwarven helmet, ebony helmet, and more, you'll actually be able to see their eyes instead of just seeing black holes. This even affects the guard armor as well, so you'll be able to see all the guards' faces in the game, which is something that I never really paid close attention to and actually adds to the game as well. Speaking of guards, the next mod on our list is the guard armor Overhaul. I'm using the Lite version just to conserve space on this massive list, and it covers all of the guard armor in the game and just makes it look completely new and completely remastered that you'll never look at the guards in the cities the same way ever again. Up next, we have the Bandolier bags and pouches mod, which makes it so that you can have so many more items that increase your carry weight. At the moment, there's 7 new slots for equipment such as chest, back left, back right, front left, and front right, as well as left side and right side. This allows you to craft small backpacks and little knapsacks that you can have on your sides, and you can wear them all at one time, giving you as much carrying capacity as you could possibly want. With Bandolier being a mod geared more towards a thief character, I thought as though the Dark Brotherhood armor could use an upgrade towards the assassin characters that we choose. So this next mod on our list is the Dark Brotherhood armor black, which makes it so that there's a 2K version of just a solid black Brotherhood armor. I never really liked the red and black that they had in the original game. Having the armor just be full black like it was in Oblivion is just something that I feel is a lot better looking whenever it comes to the Dark Brotherhood armor, but that's just my opinion. You can use any different type of Brotherhood armor that you want here. This is just my suggestion because it makes it 2K and it actually looks really badass as well. And to complete your full new set of black armor, you're also going to want to pick up the black leather sheath mod, which is the next mod in our list. This makes it so that the vanilla brown leather sheath has been changed to a black leather sheath, just so it blends in with the Dark Brotherhood armor that we just downloaded. Moving on to the next mod on our list, we have the Mysticism Magic Overhaul. Now you may be asking yourself, Ryan, this is an assassin and thief character. Why are we downloading a magic overhaul? But with my experience with this magic overhaul in particular, it adds 200 new spells into the game that would greatly help a thief and assassin character. There's different spells in here that will definitely help any type of character that you have, so I just thought it was great to keep it added in this list instead of removing it entirely, because it's 1.2 megabytes and it has 200 new spells in the game. So I think we can sacrifice one small slither for a magic overhaul because of just how much this mod adds. And then next up we have the Ordinator Perks of Skyrim mod, which is a must-have for all of my playthroughs just because of how much it changes. There's 400 brand new perks to improve the depth and fun of character building. It's also lightweight and compatible with many other mods and uses clean scripts. So this overhauls all of the perk trees in the game and gives you so many different ways to play the game that it's a must-have for me and all of my characters. And then next up you want to grab the Mysticism Ordinator patch just so the two mods run together perfectly with no issues at all. Moving on, we have the Frost Flow Tweaks mod, which is a very simple mod that just makes it so that the frost effects and overall spells for frost are a lot more powerful and realistic as well. Now that may not seem very important, but whenever it comes to someone running away from you, if you hit them with any type of frost spell or frost arrow, they're going to be slowed to almost a halt because they're frozen now. This is what the Frost Flow Tweaks mod does, and it just changes it so if anyone's ever running away from you or you're stuck in a battle with a frozen spell, then it'll be a lot more realistic. Whenever you're freezing your enemies, they'll be slowed down and can't get away as fast. Next up we have the Sustain Magic mod, which is an overall must-have mod for all of my characters no matter what type of playstyle I have. Even if I'm not going to be using magic at all, I still want to have the Sustain Magic mod enabled just because of simply how it changes the game. How this mod changes the game is it makes it so that all of the spells in the game that you cast that have a time limit on it will now mostly just be affected by taking away your maximum magicka. My best example of this would be since we have the ELFX mods that completely darken all of the caves and dungeons, so that you are forced to use a torch in pretty much every cave and dungeon because of just how pitch black it is. This is very, very useful with the Sustain Magic mod because you can cast Candlelight only one time and Candlelight will just stay lit, which makes it so much more useful whenever you're going through caves with the Candlelight spell because you can have that open-handed, you can use a bow and arrow and sneak around. Moving on to one of our final spells added into the game, it's the Placeable Statics mod. This basically just allows you to customize your house in any way that you would seem fit by allowing you to place furniture using the Select Furniture spell in your inventory. It's actually considered a power, so you're going to have to find it under the power section, but it allows you to move around any type of furniture that you have in your house. Next up, we have the Summermyst Enchantments of Skyrim mod. This expands the pool of weapon and armor enchantments with over 120 new enchantments added into the game that can be bought, looted, and applied to custom items. It also makes many improvements to vanilla enchantments. And then we have Andromeda, the unique Standing Stones of Skyrim, which replaces the mundane vanilla Standing Stone effects with 2 new abilities per stone, enabling many new character builds. And then next is the Growl Werebeast of Skyrim mod, just in case you wanted to be an assassin who's also geared towards being a werebeast, because being a werebeast in Skyrim has so many more perks to it now. With this Growl being a lightweight werewolf overhaul, it offers a much smoother werebeast combat experience, scaling, reworked perks, and synergies between beast and mortal form, as well as many quality of life improvements, making werebeast a viable choice for your character. All of this without taking over or imbalancing the game in any means. This is also where you'd put your vampire overhaul mods, but I haven't really played as a vampire too much, and I do feel as though a vampire assassin character is already very possible in the game. And now we can move on to the perk point mods, which I feel are very necessary whenever you're using Ordinator, because with Ordinator having 400 new perks added into the game, as you level up you'll start to notice that these 400 new perks that have been added are almost impossible to dive into if you don't have any extra perk points at your disposal. So these next few mods are going to make it so that we have more perk points so that we can dive into each skill tree that we want to without having to wait so many levels to gain more perk points. And with the 20% more perk points mod, which is the next mod in our list, it increases the number of perk points you earn so that every 5 levels you receive an additional perk point. And then the next one we have the perk points at skill levels 50, 75, or 100, giving you more of an incentive to level up those skills that you don't necessarily use too often, and you can level them up, and if you do so, you get rewarded with an extra perk to use in any skill tree of your choosing. And then you have the perk points and more gold for bounties, which makes it so that bandit and Forsworn camps give you 300 gold and 1 perk point for completing. Giant camps, clearing those, give you 500 gold and 1 perk point, and killing a dragon gives you 1000 gold and 2 perk points now. And then closing it off with our final perk point mod, we have the Dragon Souls 2 perk points, which is more so an endgame type of mod because you're going to be using your Dragon Souls early game to do other things such as buy shouts, but if you are in the late game and you have a lot of Dragon Souls left over, you can then use your Dragon Souls and convert them to perk points so that you can upgrade your skills and your endgame status. With the next mod on our list, we have a little bit of a trade-off between our Dragon Souls and perk points now, because the True Dragonborn Heavy version mod, which is the next mod featured here, it makes it so that every time you absorb a Dragon Soul, you get 3 to your carrying capacity, you get 0.3 to your damage resistance, and you also get 5 health, 5 magicka, and 5 stamina. With these upgrades for every Dragon Soul that you absorb, makes it so if you have a bunch of Dragon Souls, you'll start to get very, very powerful. But now that you have a trade-off between it being a Dragon Soul to perk points, as well as just having an overall power with the Dragon Souls, it just gives you a little bit of a choice whenever it comes to, do I want to spend my Dragon Souls in this area, or do I want to hoard them up and become a more powerful badass? You know, there's so many different things to do here, and a trade-off between the Dragon Souls to perk points and True Dragonborn, that it just makes it so that it's more of a strategy-based decision to make here. Following that, we have the Training Adjustments mod, which is a simple mod that adjusts the current training system, allowing you to be able to train up to 10 times per level with a lower cost provided. And then we have the Unread Books Glow mod, which simply just makes it so all of the books that you haven't read in the game yet have an asterisk before their name, and they can also be set to glow. Spell tomes can be set to glow green, skill books will glow red, and quest books and regular books are a shade of blue. These settings can be configured through an in-game spell, and it's very useful to find other books that you haven't found before. Now we have the Dynamic Camera mod, which is a must-have mod in all of my load orders, and it's how I get all of these different camera angles that I have in all my videos as well. You can customize the idle, the melee, the range, the min and max zooming, as well as the field of view with this mod under a certain power called the Power of Self-Vision. Once this power is casted, you can bring up the settings and customize any different type of options for all the different camera angles that you may possibly want. And sticking with our camera mods, we have the Dynamic Display Settings mod up next, which allows you to alter the contrast, brightness, saturation, depth of field, bloom radius, scale, threshold, and even add red, green, or blue tints to your game. So you can have any different type of camera angle and camera filter with the Dynamic Camera and Dynamic Display Settings mod active. And the final camera mod that we have on this list is the Horse Camera Tweak mod. This makes it so so, instead of being so far away from the camera when you're on your horse, you're a lot more closer and slightly offset to the right, so the camera's looking right over your shoulder. It just makes it so riding around on a horse throughout your adventures is a lot more better looking and feeling. And now we can move on to some of our archery changes, such as the Archery Tweaks Plus mod, which increases the speed of all arrow and bolt projectiles by 42%. It also makes them fly further before dropping to the ground, and these settings have been tested and fine-tuned over the years to achieve what I feel is a perfect compromise between realism and good gameplay. And then next up, you also want to get the Ordinator patch for archery tweaks just so they run together properly. The next mod on our list is the Portable Arrow Crafting mod, which adds a new craftable miscellaneous item, the Arrow Crafting Kit. Activating your inventory to open the crafting menu and start making arrows just as long as you're not in combat. These recipes follow the same as added by Dawnguard, and each arrow type aside from iron requires the necessary smithing perk to craft it, just like a forge. You'll need 1 firewood and 1 ingot, and you can make 24 arrows or 10 crossbow bolts. Following that, we have the Belt Fastened Quivers mod, which does exactly what you would think. It just fastens the quiver around your belt instead of being up and down on your back. This makes it so with the Cloaks of Skyrim mod that we have previously installed, whenever you're wearing one of the cloaks, the actual quiver doesn't just clip right through it. It does still clip through it a little bit, but it's not as bad, but having it around at your belt just looks a lot better on your character whenever they're wearing a cloak. And then next we have the Royal Armory mod, which adds new artifacts into the game to add immersion by giving the most important characters in Skyrim weapons to match their status. There's no quests or rewards with this mod, and the idea is that you'll encounter these weapons naturally during playthrough. And what it actually means by that is instead of having just General Tullius carry a regular sword, he'll have his own unique sword. With Ulfric Stormcloak storming into battle, he won't just have a regular steel sword, he'll have a unique sword with special enchantments. All of the items added by this mod, whether they be obtainable or not, just make it so that there's more immersion by letting you know that all of the people that you're fighting alongside aren't just your regular common folk. Up next we have the Throwing Weapons Lite mod, which adds throwing knives, throwing axes, javelins, oil pots, frost potion grenades, and even smoke bombs into the mix, making it so that arrows and spells aren't the only means of ranged combat anymore. Being able to take out an enemy from really far away using a throwing knife is very, very satisfying and gives you plenty more ways to plan out your attacks. Next up, we can move on to some of our weather and lighting mods, and that includes the combination of Surreal Lighting, Eternal Sunshine, and Far Better Sun. This makes it so the daytime and overall weather during the day in Skyrim is a lot more better and cleaner looking, and it just feels great, and the Far Better Sun is just the perfect icing on the cake because it makes it so the sun looks beautiful, and it's just a perfect combination of lighting mods for the daytime of Skyrim. And now that we've changed during the day of Skyrim, we want to change the nighttime too, so we're going to want to pick up the Enhanced Night Skyrim mod. This mod changes the night sky without affecting performance, and it includes high resolution stars in greater quantity, as well as a giant nebula that will always be there. And then topping it all off, we have the Mythical Ages Weather Overhaul, which is a complete overhaul of weathers and lighting with a fantasy theme. There's also a larger variety of weathers compared to vanilla weathers, and also a preset system that can be used to change the graphical style. You'll receive this, which is a power called the Mythical Ages preset, upon loading the game, and once used you can choose any of the presets that you have, and the one that I'm using for my playthrough is called Sharp. But overall, it remasters all the weathers in the game by including very intense rain and snowstorms. There's a full replacement of thunder sounds, and now rain and thunder can be heard inside interiors, and sun lens flares. And now we can move on to the NPC overhauls, and starting us off is the Lean Skyrim NPC overhaul. This is a very lightweight mod coming in at 200.29 megabytes as opposed to my previous load order videos where I use the Beauty of Skyrim, which takes up almost a full gigabyte. This is a lot more compact and does pretty much just as much as the Beauty of Skyrim does. It makes it so all of the NPCs in the game look amazing whenever it comes to their face. And then for the bodies, we have the next mod on our list, which is the Divine Skins and Bodies for men and women, which cover all races in the game and make all of the bodies look completely better and remastered. And next up we can change the children in the game with the RS Children overhaul, which modifies all of the children in the game to use custom assets, textures, head meshes, and body meshes, and it adds some clothing and accessories made from vanilla assets as well, just to overall remaster the children as a whole. Now that we've changed all the NPCs in the game, I wanted to focus more on the character customization side of things, so I added the Variety of Hair Colors mod, which allows you to have any different type of hair color that you'd want for any race, be it male or female. And then we have the Beards mod up next, which allows you to have any different type of beard that you'd want on your character, and even stumble across characters in the world that have these beards as well. This Beards mod replaces all of the vanilla Skyrim beard textures with completely new high-resolution, hand-painted from scratch textures. This is done to provide the best photorealistic look possible, and the aim is to stay true to the original look of the vanilla textures, but providing a more natural and realistic look. Next, we can move on to changing some of the effects found in the game, such as the Enhanced Blood Textures mod, which is a blood overhaul mod that allows for a bloodier combat experience with higher resolution and detailed textures. There's additional features such as kill move animation spasms, blood drops when low on health, and damage-based blood amounts, blood pool, and even green blood for spiders and oil for machines. And then we have the Dust Effects mod, which simply just edits all of the dust effects in the game so that they're not pixelated, and this is a must-have mod whenever using the ELFX mod, which is featured later in the list, because if you have a cave that's completely dark and just dust particles flying around, it just looks like snow inside of the caves. So this Dust Effects mod is a must-have whenever it comes to having really dark caves, because the dust will actually look very realistic because it's more prominent with the cave being so dark. And then next up we have the Skyrim is Windy mod, which aims to improve your immersion by making Skyrim's flora such as grass, plants, bushes, and trees to animate and swing in the wind. And now we can move on to our lighting mods in the list that I've been talking about previously, and it's the Enhanced Light and Effects mod. This makes it so that all light sources emit light, even in the windows and interiors. It adds candle smoke effects, there's more shadow lights in specific places, each inn has its own set of lights based on the local weather, each city has its own set of colors based on the local weather, there's an enhanced difference between night and day in interiors, and even darker and smoky taverns are included. Overall, this completely overhauls all the lights and effects in the game, and following that with the ELFX Hardcore mod, it does, like I said before, make it so that all of the interiors in the game are a lot more darker, and including the caves and dungeons in the game are now pitch black, so now a torch is required, or the candlelight spell is required as well. And following that up, we have the ELFX No Fake Light Under Doors, which is a very simple mod that just makes it so there's no light that shines underneath the doors like it would previously in the Enhanced Light and Effects mod. Next up we have the Animated Clutter mod, which adds animations to several objects that the player can interact with. I feel like this mod is absolutely amazing because all of the common barrels now have animations, the Thieves Guild caches have animations, Wrap Draggers do, Orc End Tables, Noble Chests, Spider Sacks. There's so many different items in the game that you can access that just jump to an inventory screen. There's no animation before that, but this mod changes it so that whenever you go into some of these screens, there's going to be animations such as you opening up a sack, you opening up a barrel. You're actually going to be able to see that in the background now whenever you're opening these up, and it just makes it so it's a lot more immersive. Now that we've added animations to all the clutter in the game, it's best to update this clutter with some new and remastered textures. This is going to be done using the Divine SMIM mod, which is a huge mod that covers items such as the alchemy table, carriages, cave lamps, chandeliers, common chairs, tables, furniture, display cases and weapon racks, Dwemer's scrap metal, enchanting workbenches, and more, including jewelry and stones, levers, metal cages, and mine scaffolding. There's so many different items that this mod covers and retextures that it's almost impossible to pass up, and all of these textures are also really well made, so it's definitely going to be a huge upgrade to your Skyrim. Now we can push the texture mods aside for now and bring some new creatures into the mix. This includes the Argonian hatchlings and the Khajiit caravan kittens, which are the children of those races, children Argonians and children Khajiits that can be found either swimming and catching fish near the docks near the Blackbriar Meadery, or in the Khajiit caravans that you find throughout your travels in Skyrim. And you can even find them selling reasonable goods just like their caravanning parents. And then our next mod, the Real Wildlife by Needius mod, adds even more creatures into the game. This mod adds variants of all the vanilla creatures in Skyrim, totaling about 490 new variants of natural wildlife. They have revised AI and wildlife faction interaction, 16 new lore-friendly diseases, 45 new ingredients, 21 new foods, and 21 new recipes. And with you being a thief or assassin character, you're going to want to start by upgrading your archery by going out and hunting, and doing so you're going to be able to kill some of these 490 new variants of wildlife, get these new ingredients and be able to sell them and create new potions in order to sell them and get better gear as well. So it's just all around better in terms of hunting and just finding new things in the wild. Next up on our list we have the Talkative Dragons mod, and the mod page reads, "Have you ever found it weird that dragons, which are fully sapient beings, have never spoken a word to you while you're doing your best to defeat them?" So basically during a dragon fight, the dragon will start to talk to you and taunt you during battle, and I feel like that's a really cool touch on top of everything whenever it comes to an intense dragon fight. Moving on, we have what, in my opinion, is the best yet most unforgiving difficulty overhaul out there, and that's called Elegy. There's the Elegy Difficulty and Balance Overhaul, as well as the Elegy Mist Crafting Experience, and then the Elegy Ordinator patch, which are all in a line on this list that will drastically increase the loot rarity and rarity. There's a Crafting Experience Overhaul, so there's less spamming and better perk allocations and more. There's also been a skill rate adjustment. There's some new crafting and tempering recipes, overhauled alchemy and food, decreased carry weight, harder bartering, and faster paced combat, as well as many more difficulty and balance tweaks. And then speaking of combat, up next we have the Wildcat Combat of Skyrim mod, which makes it so that most combat styles and combat AI related game settings have been turned up, making opponents much more relentless and decisive. And this also includes an injury system such as there is in Fallout, how you can get crippled limbs. You're actually able to cripple the limbs of other people and even have your limbs crippled now. And what's combat without some kill moves? So I had to add a kill move mod in the list, and that's where Violence comes in. Violence, a kill move mod, is a mod that allows you to do any type of kill move that you would want at any different type of battle. It comes with a book that allows you to customize the configuration settings, making it so that you can do a kill move on just one person at the end of a fight, or every person in a fight. You can change the kill move chance that you have, or what type of kill move it's going to be. There's so many different customization options whenever it comes to what type of kill moves you can do. The next mod on our list is the Improved Bandits Complete Bandit Overhaul, and this changes the attributes and perks of bandits to be completely rebalanced. The strength of bandits now increases more consistently across levels, and low-level bandits will now pose an adequate challenge. Next up, we can move on to the mods that reflect our animations in the game, such as the Dual Sun Animation Replacer, the one-handed version, the Spoiler Animation Overhaul, as well as the Refined Movement mod. These three mods combined make for the greatest animations that I've seen in a character, and that's so much as means for jumping around, putting your weapon away and out, swinging your weapon, as well as blocking, all have different animations now, and I feel as though they are the best looking in the game. And moving right along to the next mod on our list, we have the Refined Artifacts mod, which improves artifacts and uniques without changing them into something very different. This includes items such as the Dawnbreaker, the Rueful Axe, and the Savior's Hide, as well as all the other artifacts in the game. It gives them a much needed buff because of just how rare they are, and makes them actually worth going out and retrieving. And the next mod that I have for you guys is called the Lanterns and Candles SE mod, which adds craftable and placeable light sources. All you need is some troll fat, mammoth snout, horker meat, or a beehive husk, and then you can create candles at any cooking pot. And at any forge with various ingots and empty bottles, you can create another light source such as a candelabra and use these creations to illuminate your home or wherever you see fit. Moving on from that, we have the Craft Everything mod, which allows for every non-unique piece of clothing, armor, and weapon to be craftable now. And staying along the same lines as changing the crafting in the game, we have the Smeltdown update, which is a very useful mod that allows for metallic items to be broken down in a smelter and non-metallic items to be broken down at a tanning rack. This reminds me of how Fallout worked, because you used to go out and just collect a bunch of miscellaneous items and then head back to your settlement and scrap it off for junk and parts. This is pretty much like that. You can go into a castle or any different type of area in the game and just sweep out all of the miscellaneous items and then bring them back to a smelter and then smelt them down into materials such as iron ingots. And then after that, we have the IA92's Enchanting Without Restrictions, which allows for players to put the same enchantments on jewelry, clothes, shields, hoods, and boots. Usually you can only put 4 same enchantments on apparels. Now you can put your desired enchantments on all 7 pieces instead of just 4. Our next mod is called Multiple Rings, and it does exactly what you would think. It just allows you to wear more than one ring, allowing for a greater build whenever it comes to enchanting rings and having them all on the same hand. Next up, we have the Radiant Unique Potions and Poisons mod, which makes it so that each potion or poison bottle is unique, not just in color or bottle pattern, but also the label and adornments. The bottles also have their own labels now that reflect of what the potion or poison actually does, as well as reflect some of the ingredients that went into the making of that specific potion. Many bottles also have a glowing effect to enhance the aesthetic appearance and bring out the color and design. Now we can move on to our landscape overhauls as well as our really big texture overhauls, and starting us off is the Skyland All-in-One mod, which I feel like is the best mod to include here because of everything that it covers. It covers things such as the farmhouses in the game, Markarth, Riften, Solitude, Whiterun, Winterhold, all of the road signs, the Standing Stones, the Dark Brotherhood door, Dwemer Ruins, caves, Imperial forts and dungeons, and many, many more, including the Radaway, ships, shacks, and more. There's so much covered in the Skyland All-in-One mod, and it makes it look absolutely beautiful as well that it's almost impossible to pass up whenever it comes to changing your landscapes. And you want to follow that up with the Skyland All-in-One patch just to fix any unwanted bugs with the original Skyland All-in-One. Next up, we have the Tamriel Reloaded Trees mod, which is a complete rework of Skyrim's trees by making Tamriel less boring to explore. It changes some tree spots to make more of a variety, and also hand places trees all over the map, such as new maples, pines, cherry blossoms, weeping trees, and even dead trees. This is overall the greatest trees mod that I've ever seen in Skyrim, and all of the trees that they've hand placed are absolutely beautiful to look at. And following that up, we have the Tamriel Reloaded Grasses mod, which adds almost 120 different types of grasses, plants, and shrubs to the game, giving you some new landscapes and variations to Skyrim's terrain. And following that up, we have Mary's Flora, the all-in-one version, which adds more high-quality textures for Soul Slime's mushrooms, hanging moss, nightshade, there's now a black version, Dragon's Tongue, there's now a Death Bell black version, the Mountain Flower, Lavender, Tundra Cotton, Thistle, Spiky Grass, Nirnroot, and even Green Ivy has been altered, making it so all of the flora and ingredients in the game have been changed and remastered with some high-quality textures. Now we can move on to changing some of the cities as well as the special areas that you can travel to in Skyrim. And starting us off, we have the Great City of Solitude. This Great City of Solitude transforms Solitude's port into something truly worthy of Skyrim's capital city. The port's been greatly expanded with new homes, shops, and warehouses, and now covers both sides of the Karth River. The Stone Arch has also been reshaped into something more natural and more imposing, and there's also new vendors, guards, and other NPCs that have been added. You'll also want to grab 2 patches to go along with this Great City of Solitude mod, and that is the USSEP, which stands for Unofficial Skyrim Special Edition patch. You want to get the patch for the Great City of Solitude on that and put it right underneath the Great City of Solitude, and then underneath that patch you're going to want to put another one, which is the Tamriel Reloaded Trees patch for the Great City of Solitude, just so everything runs together properly and there's no clipping with these mods combined. Next up, we have a mod by the same creator. It's more of a compilation though, and it's just called The Great Cities. This alters places such as Dawnstar, Dragonbridge, Morthal, and Winterhold in the same type of style as the Great City of Solitude was designed in. Now that we've changed pretty much every other aspect of the game, it's best to move on to the College of Winterhold and not leave that alone, because the original College of Winterhold is very, very disappointing. I know that if you're a thief or assassin character, you may not even step foot inside of the College of Winterhold, but if you are going to use a staff or maybe a spell to use in your playthrough, whether it be to sneak past something or to actually kill someone with in one of your assassination missions, then the Magical College of Winterhold and the Magical Staves and Staves mod is something that I definitely recommend worth checking out for this playthrough, because it completely remasters the College of Winterhold as a whole and gives you so much more things to do as well as items to obtain. And since we have the Enhanced Light and Effects mod previously, we are going to want to pick up the ELFX patch for the Magical College of Winterhold just so everything runs together properly. The next mod that I have for you is called Whiterun, a City Full of Life, and it adds loads of new plant life and insects to Whiterun to make it come alive. There's also new birds and chickens added as well. And combining this with the better Skyforge mod, which makes it so that the Skyforge has a smelter and an armorer's table, so you no longer need to track down to Adrian's for everything. It also has a display rack for some of the Skyforge weapons, because he'd want to show them off, right? And there's also a few more stuff on his table that would make more sense, and this actually makes a lot more sense whenever it comes to the Skyforge, because Adrian always says that Yorlin Greymane has the best Skyforge, but he doesn't even have an armorer's table, or even a smelter up there. But this mod changes it so that the Skyforge is actually the best place to go for smelting and crafting, and the combination of the better Skyforge and then the Whiterun City Full of Life, as well as the Skyland All-in-One mod, which changes Whiterun, you have the most beautiful looking Whiterun imaginable. So it seems like we've touched all of Whiterun except for one place, the Breeze Home. The Breeze Home Basement mod is the next mod in our list, and it adds a small player home, which is the basement to Breeze Home. It adds crafting stations and storage so that Breeze Home can be a viable player home later in the game instead of just a beginner one. Coming up next, we have the Outlaws Refuges mod, which adds a refuge to every city in the game except for Riften. Because Riften is the seat of the Thieves Guild, it doesn't need an Outlaws Refuge, thus it's not included. Each refuge is populated with shady characters, and some of them offer services such as training in the various criminal arts or the sale of alchemical supplies. Most also have fences who are eager to help lighten your backpack and fatten your wallet. Now we can move on to Epic Crab's Lawbringer Plus mod, which allows you to take over a location for a faction of your choice by clearing the enemies out and then replacing the initial banner with the faction you wish to take control of the fort. And there's plenty of different areas that this mod covers and allows you to take control of, such as Bannermist Tower, the Bleakwind Bluff, Cradlestone Tower, Dragonbridge Overlook, the Falkreath Watchtower, Forskull Lookout, Halted Steam Mine, and more. Now we can add some new dungeons into the game using Easier Riders Dungeon Pack, which adds 8 new dungeons all around Skyrim, all of which are lore friendly and seamlessly integrated into the world. So we've touched upon the bandit camps and dungeons in the game, now it's time to move on to the forts, which brings us to our next mod, the Imperial Stone Forts of Skyrim mod. Now the forts of Skyrim look as though they've been abandoned for 400 years, and this mod aims to change that up a little bit. New structures and walls have been built in the major forts of Skyrim, and some walls are still wooden palisades until a civil war faction takes over from the bandits. The walls and decorations will dynamically change depending on which faction currently has ownership of the fort, and shrines to Talos dominate Stormcloak forts while shrines to Akatosh take up the mantle of the Imperial-held forts. So with these 3 mods combined, you have bandit camps, dungeons, and forts touched upon, making it so that there's a whole bunch of new areas to explore in the game. And now we can move on to the Place of Power mod, which is up next, and it carefully adds to the area around the standing stones, making for some more interesting places. This features such as improved ruins, more clutter, or books with a backstory. The areas affected are the Guardian Stone, Ritual Stone, Lord Stone, Lady, and Shadow Stone. These are lore friendly, and the areas will now be much prettier and stand out more, and like I said, there's new books with the backstory of the place at hand. Moving on, we have Allsopa's HD compilation, which adds new high-quality textures to the items that weren't included in previous overhauls, as well as items that we may have in our possession, such as the Akatosh amulet. There's also the anvil, grindstone, workbench, and smelter that have been changed. The burial urns, mead barrels, strider, and netches have been changed as well. Whiterun streets have been changed. There's new unique hand-painted road signs, hold guard shields, unique coin bags, HD paper, and new keys as well, so that there's so many new things that have been covered with this HD compilation. And just staying along the same lines as Allsopa's HD compilation, we have the skeleton key mod, which is included up next. Since you're playing as a thief character, you're going to want to keep your hands on the skeleton key whenever you get it, so having a little bit of a remastered texture on that is definitely going to look better whenever you're picking those locks. And moving on to Allsopa's final mod in this list, the new enchantment textures mod, makes it so all of the enchantments that you have on your weapons are going to be very vibrant. For example, if I have an absorb health thing on my sword, if I pull it out, it's going to be glowing a very vibrant red instead of a very, very thin red. Frost will have like blizzard effects coming off of it. Any different type of enchantment that you have will have a new texture on top of that weapon, so it makes the weapon look a lot more badass and very satisfying to use in battle. Coming up next, we have the Fortified Animated Fort Doors mod, which is a very simple mod that changes all of the doors on the forts in the game to have an animated opening sequence. This makes a lot of the forts in the game seem a lot more fortified, because originally in the game they were just a door with a small hook on that you could just pull right open. This mod makes it so whenever you press A on a door to open it, or you're going to enter a door, it has a little animation that plays of you fiddling around with the lock, and then the door opens, making it feel a lot more immersive. Now we can move on to the ESO Sky Shards mod, which is a mod that's a must-have for most of my playthroughs because of just how useful it is. Basically, it makes it so that the Sky Shards from Elder Scrolls Online are placed all around Skyrim. Once you collect 3 of these Sky Shards that are scattered throughout the land, you will earn 1 perk point to spend as you see fit. There's 6 in each section of Skyrim for a total of 66 shards, amounting to 22 extra perk points. Now we can move on to the Lockpicking Interface Redone mod, which is a remake of the Lockpicking Interface asset with a 100% new model and HD texture. Now the lock is a lot bigger, occupying most of the screen space that otherwise would be wasted, and it makes lockpicking a lot more satisfying and less tedious as well. Next up, we have the beautiful gold overhaul, which retextures a majority of the golden objects in the game, such as the Crown of Baron Zaya, all of the Thieves Guild quest items such as urns, flagons, and model ships, coins such as septums, and Elder Scrolls as well. Then we have the Strongbox Replacer, which is a model replacer for the Strongbox that makes it look more like a small chest made out of wood and decorated with Nordic patterns. Now let's talk about adding some new treasure into the game. The Expanded Gemstones Vanilla Gems is a great place to start with this because it's a mod that retextures the original gemstones in the game to be very vibrant gem appearances. And then up next you have the Expanded Gemstones plus 50 gems, which adds 50 extra gemstones to the game and implements them into mining, trade, and loot tables throughout the game. Next up, we have the Medieval Torches for Skyrim mod, which is a medieval-style custom-made torch replacer with 2K textures. This fits in very well with our previous replacer mods because of the 2K textures, and simply just makes it so that the torch that you hold in the game looks a lot more better and higher quality. The next mod on our list is called the Mystic Condenser, and it adds a whole new crafting station into the game. The Mystic Condenser will combine 2 or more potions, poisons, or filled soul gems of the same type into 1 or more of their higher level counterparts. For example, 3 standard potions of healing, which restore 50 points of health each, will condense down to 2 plentiful potions of healing, which are 75 points each, preserving the total of 150 points while taking up 0.5 less weight and being worth a few more septums as well. Coming up next, we have probably one of my favorite mods in this Thief load order, which is the Thief's Resolve. It adds one well-hidden loot stash to each dungeon interior in Skyrim, except for the Dragonborn DLC. There are 362 loot stashes in total, and each containing about 500 gold plus a healthy assortment of random enchanted and unenchanted jewelry, daggers, gems, and a small quiver of arrows, as well as a few potions. Besides the 500 gold, it's leveled loot to keep it balanced. Moving on, we have the mainland Stalrim mod, which adds veins of Stalrim ore to over 30 locations spread across the mainland of Skyrim. They're also mostly found in Nordic ruins, but there's a few veins that can be found on the exterior of Skyrim as well. You can also now craft your own ancient Nordic pickaxe so that you can start gathering the Stalrim without heading into Solstheim and completing quests, and to craft one of these you can obtain the Nordic pickaxe manual, which can be found at the Skyforge. Moving on, we have probably the best loot overhaul that I've ever seen in Skyrim, the Narrative Loot mod. This mod adds 1,629 miscellaneous items to chests, pockets, and vendors. You'll find new paintings, new decorative books, and new types of dinnerware, as well as small furnishings. There's also a new unique shop, which is called Hela's Fine Wares, located in Windhelm. This shop sells a rotating selection of all the items, or the player can steal any item at any time. With there being over 1,600 new items added into the game, I do feel as though this is the best loot mod to have on a thief character, because whenever you go into a house to steal something, you'll always find something different. You'll never go from house to house and just keep finding the same items. You'll always find some new item in someone else's house because of just how many new items there are. The next mod on our list is called the Purification of Skyrim, and it's perfect for any type of assassin character that you have out there, because it allows you to craft poisoned apples now. After finding the recipe, you'll be able to craft poisoned apples at any cooking station if you have the ingredients. You can then offer them to any of the denizens of Skyrim in conversation, depending on what your relationship is with the individual and your speechcraft skill. So this means that you can convince someone to eat an apple that's poisoned right in front of you, and that could be your assassination attempt. Now we can move on to some map mods. The pastel map markers is the next mod on our list, and it just makes it so that all of the map markers in the game are a lot more colorful and vibrant. And the updated mine markers just makes it so whenever you discover a mine, it tells you exactly what's inside that mine. For example, if you stumble across Embershard Mine, it's an iron mine, so it would read Embershard Mine, and then in parentheses it would say iron. Up next we have the Better Pelt Prices mod, which makes it so that pelts and hides sell for a higher price and produce extra leather to make hunting more worthwhile. The next mod we have is the Get Immersive Cheats mod, and I don't necessarily classify it as a cheat mod because it just allows you to do more immersive things in the game, such as collect mammoth tusk from mammoth skulls that you find in the wild, firewood from wood piles that you find, loot from crates, and you can also get more loot or alchemy ingredients from burial urns, corpses, and barrels, and plus it adds more items that you can use in convenient places. And then after that we have the Get Immersive Merchant Cheats mod, which doubles the gold that merchants and fences have to buy your stuff. It gives you more fences that you can sell your stolen goods to, adds more magic staves and hoods to merchandise sold by wizards, it lets you buy and sell ingredients, potion, and clutter to innkeepers, and merchants now sell rare and unique items. Moving on, we have IA92's Warzone, which increases the random encounters and bandit attacks that you stumble across in your travels. Bandits will attack wandering NPCs and players, so you'll have more random encounters on the road, making so Skyrim never feels like a boring place. Next up we have the TG Fences and Trainers mod that makes it easier than ever to get rid of your ill-gotten loot. Just visit one of the new 8 fences and sell it, no questions asked. These trainers are located in Candlehearth Hall, Silverblood Inn, the Bannered Mare, Dead Man's Drink, the Winking Skeever, Moorside Inn, the Frozen Hearth, and Windpeak Inn. Moving on to our follower mods, we have Lydia Reborn V2. Now this mod changes a lot about her, not just her appearance. For one, she now wears a Whiterun uniform and uses a steel greatsword. She also has a key to her safe in the Vanilla Room in Breezeholm, and her steel armor and goodies are inside. And she won't just be stuck inside of Breezeholm all this time either. She'll actually go and do her rounds at the guard barracks across from War Maidens, and at night she'll go to the inn for some good times, and then later she'll come home and go to bed, wake up, and repeat. And then next up we have one of my favorite follower mods, which is Inigo. Inigo I feel like is one of the best follower mods out there, and I don't think it'll ever be topped in Skyrim modding because of just how much it adds to the game and how he interacts with every different quest in the game as well. It's just a perfect follower mod to have with any type of character. So if you've never played through a character with Inigo by your side, then I definitely recommend doing so for this load order, because as a thief or assassin character with Inigo by your side, you're going to have an epic adventure. Now we can move on to some of the mods that are built towards the quest in the game, such as the Choose Guild Job with Bets mod that allows you to choose where you want to do your Thieves Guild quests from Delvin or Vex, and you can even bet on them to do them in a certain amount of time to get extra gold. For example, if you bet that you can do it in under 24 hours, you'll get 3 times the pay. If you do it in under 48 hours, you'll get 2 times the pay, and then anything more than that, you'll just get regular pay. Up next we have the Missives mod, which adds missive boards to the 9 hold capitals in the game, where you can find a number of different Radiant quests of varying difficulty. These quests include courier quests, gather quests, kill quests, and retrieve quests, all of which total up to over 210 new Radiant quests added into the game. The next mod on our list is the Parthenac's Dilemma, and it basically just gives you more of a choice whenever it comes to what happens in the main quest. Next up we have the Brotherhood of Old, which is an amazing quest mod for Skyrim that I actually did a full playthrough on. If you're interested in seeing the full playthrough, I'll link it in the description, but otherwise it takes place after the final quest in the Dark Brotherhood questline, and this 24 quest epic will take you all across the land of Skyrim as you try to rebuild the Brotherhood and strengthen it against future attacks. How will you deal with these new brothers and sisters? Will you be heartless and cold, doing only what's good for the Brotherhood as a whole, or will you be silent or cryptic, letting others fill the gaps? Or will you take the straightforward path? Or will you take a little extra effort and be rewarded proportionally? Will the Brotherhood fall under you, or will you make Sithis proud? This mod features roughly 8 to 12 hours of gameplay depending on your playstyle, and 24 new quests, which include 16 main story quests and 8 optional side quests. There's also new items including new books, weapons, clothing, and armor, and it's fully voiced, featuring 26 semi-professional and professional voice actors, a new player home, and a new follower and potential wife. Now let's pause the list here again, because I do have to give you guys another piece of important information regarding a small incompatibility with this mod. Now since we downloaded the Great Cities mod, which overhauls many of the cities in the game, including Winterhold, one of the optional side quests that's inside of the Brotherhood of Old is called Dead Drops, and it makes you go to a certain knapsack that's in Winterhold in order to obtain the next note for the next quest, and to get to the knapsack it's impossible to do so with the Great Cities mod installed. So what I did is I went to the cheat room and got the TCL ring out of the cheat ring chest, and just made it so I could clip right through the snow in the ground to retrieve the knapsack. This is the only problem in the game that you'll ever have to use this ring for, so if you use it for this part of the game, you can then just discard of the ring or keep it in a chest or do whatever you want to do with it, but this is just the way to get around it. I guess otherwise you could just delete the Great Cities mod and just do it that way, but this makes it so you can have the really great city of Winterhold as well as having this mod on top of it. Now that all that's out of the way, we can jump right back into the list at the Realistic Water 2 mod, which is up next, and it features a huge water overhaul that makes all of the water look amazing in the game and so realistic. And then following that we have the Better Water for Realistic Water 2, which is a mod on top of a mod to make it look even better. The original Realistic Water 2 had a couple seams here and there, especially in Solitude, where you would be able to see the split in ocean textures, but this Better Water for Realistic Water 2 mod fixes that so that you'll have none of that, and it's just a completely remastered texture for water, and it just looks beautiful. Next up we have the Color Patches Remover mod, which simply just gets rid of those orange square patches that you find throughout the land sometimes. Coming up next we have one of my favorite mods of all time, and that's the Alternate Start Live Another Life mod. This mod provides an alternate means to the start of the game for those who do not wish to go through the lengthy intro sequence at Helgen, because we've all done that a million times and we just don't want to do it anymore. You'll be given the opportunity to change your race and then choose a new life for your character to lead, with a wide variety of choices available. What you will choose will have a lasting impact, so choose carefully or the gods may forsake you again. This mod just basically makes it so that you can choose any different type of backstory that you had previously, instead of always just being someone who crossed the border and got caught. And then following that up with the New Beginnings Live Another Life mod, which is the mod up next on the list, it's more of an expansion on top of the Alternate Start mod to give you more options, such as an addict in a skooma den, an adventurer in a Dwemer ruin, there's an alchemist camping in the wilderness, you can just be a beggar, you can be attacked by a dragon right off the bat, or even be a pilgrim to a temple. There's so many new options whenever it comes to starting a new character, so the choice for your backstory is completely up to you. Up next we have the Run for Your Lives mod, which is a small mod that makes citizens in a village or city run indoors during a dragon or vampire attack, instead of just charging into battle head on. And then after that we have the Better Intimidation mod, which replaces all of the player choices for intimidations and a few other lines with more mean and well-deserved ones. After that we have the Head Tracking mod, which enables head tracking for the player so that your character will face other actors similar to the NPCs in the game. Your character will first prioritize actors who are currently in dialogue with you, then actors who are currently talking to any other NPC, then actors who are straight in front of you. This is a very minor change, but you'll notice it right away and it just makes the game feel a little bit more realistic. Moving on, we have the Realistic Conversations mod, which reads, "Have you ever wondered why NPCs always seem to have a long pause between each sentence? Well, no more. They're actually talking like people should do now. Every social logic in Skyrim for NPCs has changed, so they talk more often to each other and will less likely greet you from a distance. They'll also greet less often too. making them not act as much like robots. And following that, we have the Relationship Dialogue Overhaul, which adds over 5,000 lines of completely voiced dialogue for NPCs for more than 50 voice types, focusing mainly on friends, followers, spouses, and rivals. All of these dialogue is voiced using the original files in the game, so it sounds extremely realistic, and it just gives you way more things to hear in the game from different NPCs. You'll also want to pick up the RDO USSEP patch, which stands for Relationship Dialogue Overhaul, Unofficial Skyrim Special Edition patch, which just makes it so the two mods can run together. And then after that, we have the Underwhelming Multiple Followers mod, which is very simple in the fact that it gives you 3 followers instead of 1 in the game, making it so you can have a huge bandwagon with you now. And following that mod, we have the UMF USSEP compatibility patch, which makes it so this Underwhelming Multiple Followers mod can work with the Unofficial Skyrim Special Edition patch. And then also with RDO, you need the RDO compatibility patch with UMF, just so everything runs together properly and you have no issues. And topping off this list with one final mod, we have the FPS Eternal mod. This is one of the greatest FPS mods out there, and it makes it so that your game will run incredibly smooth with a load order this size. And that is pretty much everything on the list, guys. That is all 150 mods in this huge Thief and Assassin load order, and I hope that you guys do enjoy the mods that I've picked out for you, because I've spent a lot of time testing and creating this load order, and I have over 60 hours on my character. I've completed the main quest line, as well as the Dark Brotherhood quest line, and the Dark Brotherhood of Old quest line, as well as the Thieves quest line on my character. So I've tested everything that this mod list covers, and I'm very confident in my placement of these mods so that you'll have one of the greatest experiences on Skyrim that you've ever had before. So the last thing that you have to do after installing all of these mods is just simply restart your console and start on a new fresh character, just so that you can have everything load in on a fresh new save. I also want to thank you guys again for voting on the poll that got this video made, and once this video goes out, I'll be sure to post a new community tab section where you can vote for the next load order. So I really look forward to hearing what you guys think about this list, and if you did enjoy it, then I'd appreciate it if you left a like and subscribe if you're new. It really helps me out a lot. And if you have any suggestions for mod lists you'd like me to cover in the future, or mods you'd like me to cover in my future top 5 mod videos, be sure to let me know in the comment section below, or you can follow me on Twitter. I'll be sure to leave my Twitter in the description, and you guys can follow me on there and leave me suggestions to there as well. Special shout out to my Patreon supporters. Thank you guys so much for everything that you guys have done for me. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully you guys did enjoy, and I will talk to you guys later.